Welcome, Marcin. So lovely to meet you. It's been a
Hi,
while
Joe.
since since we last spoke, so I'm very happy to see you. And shall I give a brief introduction of why we are here and what this whole conversation is about? Introducing basically the concept of authentic living or heartful living, which when you asked me to read your book and just give my honest opinion about it, this was the first thing that came up in me when I was reading it. It's like, oh my God, you are the perfect example of heartful living, which is exactly what my focus in my coaching practice is showing people how to live from their authentic calling and how to follow that authentic calling in their heart. And that you were sharing your story of how you were doing it in your own life. So I thought you're amazing. Like I need to speak with you and I need to share your story for inspiration as a way of showing how to follow that calling. And as a first question, the first thing that came up in me is how did you know? Like how did you know what your calling was? Was there a turning point in your life? Or was there anything that
Well, hi, Joe.
Mhm.
First things, and yes, hi everybody. Also, it's been a while since we last spoke, and I think that is also it was a beautiful possibility that was created by life that we somehow I let you know that the book will be out quite soon, and you came up with the idea that you feel inspired to start conversations about inspiration in general. So um, that's a wonderful thing. And coming back to your question, what was how did I know that what was calling me?
Yes.
What was
How did you
calling me?
know what was calling you? And was there a kind of a turning point in your life where it just became very clear?
Well, at first it was not so clear. At first it was very subtle, and at first I didn't know what was calling me. I knew that something was calling me,
Mm.
um, and it was connected to, a huge transformation that was happening in my life. And at some point, I noticed that the things that were around me, in terms of the environment where I was living, for example, like just didn't work anymore. So I felt like a bit like life was pushing me toward this calling and pushing me away from things that were very helpful and were needed to some certain phase of my life and certain phase of growth. But I remember that one of the moments when I started to feel the calling is when Africa started to appear in my thoughts, in my dreams, and in my environment, like first very subtle, in a very subtle way. And this was the beginning. And I at first I didn't know what was there. And I knew that Africa was calling me for some reason. And that was also when I started to study the ancient art of tracking wild animals. And this was actually something which I felt very when I discovered this methodology, I could feel that there is something in that.
Mm.
And this might be the way forward for me to actually to really explore that. But
Mm.
the turning point for me was when I finally decided after many resistances and um, many different challenging moments, and when I finally decided to move away from things that were not serving me anymore so much, and I traveled for the first time to South Africa.
Mm,
That was the turning point. And when I got to South Africa for the first time, I
mm,
started to feel why life was, letting me know about
mm.
this calling. Yeah.
What did you feel?
Well, I feel, I had many ideas ahead of time before I get there. But when I get to Africa, I started to feel that was exactly what I was supposed to be doing. I was in
Mm,
in the natural wild environment, and there is something very special to African land,
mm,
which has a very healing quality.
mm,
And as soon as I get there, and a few days passed, and I started to orient myself a bit more, I just started to feel that the healing process was just started to happening by itself.
mm,
I didn't have to do anything about this. The
mm,
only thing that was required of me was just presence, my presence there. And this started to grow. And first excursion to Africa grew in second, and then another one, another one, another one, and it has been like that.
mm. Sounds like a very like empowering journey, very healing and empowering journey.
Yes,
Did you
yes.
have any challenges though along the way? Or was it all just sweet sailing,
No, 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 no,
easy
no. It
sailing?
was not. Um, it is, well, what I've discovered is that the most actually challenging moments was and the phase uh, when approaching this calling and actually answering it was just before the first excursion to Africa. It seems that there is there is
Mm,
resistance in
mm-hmm,
us in human psyche,
mm-hmm.
initially resistance towards that which is really um, meant for us or
Yeah.
destined for us. And I had to go through this resistance and at
Mm.
some point, like courageously step into that calling.
Mm.
And yeah,
What
I think
helped
that
you
was,
come through or overcome this resistance? Sorry to interrupt.
um, I think that action
Mm-hmm,
and gradual movement forward in spite
mm-hmm,
of anxiety, in spite of some fear, because the fear was also there. Um, but I think like this is my experience that it's important to keep moving forward. And the
mm-hmm,
best what I've discovered also is to keep moving forward in a small steps.
mm-hmm,
And that makes this resistance a bit milder.
mm-hmm.
And yeah, what is wonderful that once we are on the other side, it's completely different. And what I also discovered is that every single time when I was approaching, and I'm still approaching this calling from different angles, the resistance is lesser and lesser and lesser. So it seems like there is a growth happening and expansion and and some sort of adoption to new circumstances when
mm,
approaching the calling. And so it's just lighter every single time. For
mm,
me, it has been different. It's been calling to Africa and numerous
mm,
adventures there, but for someone else, it can be something completely different.
mm,
But this resistance seems to be in place um, whenever I approach something of significance.
mm.
So,
Yeah, one of my coaching teachers calls it the hero's journey. Like
here is Jeremy. Oh,
when there is that calling and you step into your power, and then huge waves of resistance come to try to stop you, and there is this inner battle going on, or moving forward and staying in the same place. And yeah, that's a beautiful description of the hero's journey what you just shared.
yes. Well, that's
Mhm,
how I experienced that. So it seems to be, yes, it seems to be like this hero
mhm,
has to go through number of, trials and different challenging experiences. But there is a big growth
mhm,
along this process.
mhm,
Um, yeah, hero is continuously moving forward.
mhm. Was there anything like practical challenges along the way in your journey?
Practical
That,
changes.
yeah, anything that, any funny stories that just jump out from the many?
Mm, well, practical challenges. It's literally I could say practical because at first when I flew to South Africa, I thought that I'm so well prepared. But once I was there were different because it was completely new for me. I have never been before in Africa, and Africa is very specific. Is different.
Mhm,
Um, And I had some practical things with renting a car, something like this, but like experience like this. But what I've also discovered that the minute I stepped into that calling and started moving forward, there are always some sort of allies that are happening along the way.
mhm,
So even though the challenges are in place, there are also always some people, favorable events that are, yeah, just supporting
mhm.
these efforts.
Wow.
So,
What was your biggest learning about yourself in this journey?
well, I think that the biggest, because I was not so much aware of that, but I think that the biggest, learning was that, and I could see that um, quite promptly after my first I went to Gozo, and then I went for the first time to Africa. It is as though the life is guiding me to, or has been guiding me to the experiences and situations that I needed for my growth.
Mhm,
So in my case, and probably that's a common thing when we are answering the calling and we are following, that's something that is calling us, is that there is a tremendous growth happening along the way.
mhm.
So it's as
Yeah.
though the universe wants to, or not maybe wants to, is presenting us with numerous experiences. And they are not always very pleasurable because we are
Mhm,
learning different things about ourselves. So the biggest learning for me was as I follow the calling, I am learning about myself a lot.
mhm, mhm. Well, what's coming up in me right now is you're such a beautiful example for how very often we feel, or I hear it from people, from clients, for example, how this buzzword of empowerment and authentic living and all this, it has become a bit of a fairy tale also in our minds that when I'm being authentic, then everything's just perfect and pristine. Whilst truly authentic living is how you just described it through trusting life, trusting the next step that's ahead of you, always facing that resistance that's trying to stop you and still moving forward in small steps and trusting that help will always come when it's needed. Because if I hear you right, this is exactly what you're describing. You're just trusting despite the fear, despite the resistance, and there is that vibrant energy of just knowing that everything is right as it is.
Yes,
Or
absolutely. And I can also see that this trust in the universe, in the intelligence of life, it
mm,
grows over time.
mm,
Initially, like really after, after letting go, so to say, the old phase of my life and stepping into a new, which in my case
mm,
was explorative traveling.
mm,
That was the calling. My first excursion to Malta, to Gozo Island. I didn't have so much trust
mm,
then that I have right now. And
mm,
still sometimes my trust, I have to, it's like a process, it's a
mm,
process. But I've, yes, I can see that the more I step into that calling and follow it, and I'm really tuned into what is it that life wants me to be doing, and partly what I feel
mm,
to be doing, instinctively or intuitively. It's like this trust grows. Trust grows.
mm.
So
Do you have
yeah.
any regrets along the way? Or did you have any regrets
Oh,
or anything
regret.
that you felt that, oh, I shouldn't have done that, or I should have done that?
Regret. Well, I don't think that I have any regrets, because as I am reflecting on all these experiences, I can see that like every single one of them was for something. It served something.
Mm,
So if I wouldn't have experienced that, I wouldn't learn that thing.
mm.
So yeah. So I wouldn't have changed anything.
Well, what are you most grateful for along this journey, or in general?
Um, well, definitely that I've stepped into that calling.
Mm,
Because it was a life-changing experience for me. And yeah, and everything that started to happen from that moment. Of course, I'm also grateful for everything what was happening before.
mm,
Um, and I appreciate the things like it was all like everything serves its purpose.
mhm,
So everything that was happening before was some kind of a platform to this phase of my life. This phase of my life is probably platform to something what is next.
mm,
Um, yeah, but yeah, that I've stepped into that calling,
mm,
and I learned myself. I teach myself to taught myself to pay attention also to what my inner microcosmos and life around
Mm,
me, what they are saying to me, because there is
mm,
so much information there. Also, to learn to follow that calling, because everything what is making me happy, what is making me more enthusiastic, more
mm,
alive, um, more joyful, more curious. Everything, there is so much information in that.
mm,
And in my experience, these are the things that are to be followed. And
mm,
it may also mean that, I don't have to know in certain moment where it's gonna end up, but it's like a following this path that can be indicated by these feelings, for example. And there is a whole beautiful methodology
mm,
around that. So it's I think it's beautiful um, to teach ourselves to dance with life in a way,
mm,
to co-create our individual life with the will of, I would say, greater intelligence.
mm,
Because when we start to dance, everything start to flow.
mm,
And doesn't mean that everything is gonna be easy, because probably it's not gonna be the case. For sure, it's not the case in my experience.
mm,
But there is so much support from the universe
mm,
once we step into and we teach ourselves to pay attention to uh, different happenings and experiences around us and within us.
mm. Well, how would you sum up the message? Well, and let me rephrase this. The whole idea of this conversation was this theme or this sentence that I read from Titnach, and that let your life be your message. So how would you verbalize your message that your life is conveying? Is there a way to even do that?
Well, yes, I think that one of the messages would be to that we are capable of co-creating our life from inside out.
Mm,
It takes some time. In my case, it's been already few years since I, stepped into the self-discovery path, but with
mm,
patience and persistence, it starts to bear fruit. So
mhm,
that would be one message that creating life from inside out. And then once we do that, um,
mhm,
we can get in touch with the creative part of
mm,
ourselves. So this innate natural predispositions, our God-given gifts,
mm,
talents, which each of us possesses, and um, and from that position we can start to really create a life which at the base of which are our passions and predispositions, and we can create we can start to create really.
mm,
um, and another message I would say would be to this dance with life, that life is communicating with us all the time, both
mm,
internally and from the external and our environment. So combining
mm,
all these things can lead to, um, in my experience, to much more harmonious, much more adventurous, creative
mm.
life. And yeah, that would be the message.
Wow, that sounds amazing, actually.
Mm.
Um, just yeah, I'm not going to. ask that. So I had another question actually, but I just lost it along the way. So if it comes up, I'll I'll come back to you with it. But
Okay.
until then, where would you like, where can you be found, or where would you like people to? So what's your message for people? Where can you be found, or
So
where is your
yes,
book found? Because I found it amazing. So all this we just talked about
thank you.
is actually being like your book has all the essence and all your adventures in it. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. It definitely like woke this spark in me, this like, oh my God, this is amazing. So
Thank you.
when is it coming out officially?
So yes, so the book will be published very soon. So we are aiming for first, second week of October,
Mhm,
and it will be available on Amazon in three formats. There will be paperback, hardcover, and ebook.
mhm.
It will be also available on different platforms, and everything will be provided. The information will be provided on my website.
Mhm.
It will also be available to purchase in the bookstores.
Oh wow.
So
So it's not
um,
only Amazon, but you actually
no,
have them.
yes, yes.
Amazing.
So the aim is that for the readers, anyone who feel inspired and interested, there will be a possibility to visit your favorite bookstore and order a copy.
Mhm,
It will be also possible to order a book on my website, which is
mhm.
marcinkozakowski.com.
I'll put the link underneath in the
Oh,
description,
that's great.
but it's good.
Um,
Like, yeah, I'll put all the links in the description to make sure it's easy to reach.
okay, great. So yes, there is also a bit more information about the book on my website, and yeah, that's probably the best place to get in contact with me or learn a little bit more about the book.
Brilliant. So if anybody feels touched by this conversation, just get in touch with you. I'm sure
Yes,
you'd be happy to hear from all those people who have that little spark and their fear is still bigger than the voice of their calling. So you could be helping them to shift that and let the calling be stronger and the fear s- smaller, basically. So they can step into that hero's journey that you've been on and you are on. Thank you very much. Thank you so
thanks
much
so
for
much. Thank you so much, Joe.